You've already seen and read all about the Mercedes-Benz X-Class in its entry four-cylinder, guys, but it's this one behind me that we've really been waiting for. It's the X350D, which gets the company's own 3-litre V6 turbo diesel engine, pushing out 550 Newton-meters of torque. It also looks really great. It's got so much presence and character, and it's going to probably be Australia's most expensive diesel-powered dual-cab ute in its class, with a starting price somewhere in the $70,000 range. We're here at the global launch in Slovenia ahead of the Australian debut in December of this year. Come on, I'll give you a further look. While the four-cylinder X-Class is already available in Australia, the fact it shares a drivetrain with the Nissan Navara on which all X-Classes are ultimately based means for some it's not a real Mercedes-Benz. The almost €50,000 X350D still started life as a Nissan, but there's not a huge amount in common, to be honest. The engine makes 190 kilowatts of peak power and 550 Newton-meters of peak torque, enough to send this heavy ute to 100 km an hour from standstill in a sprightly 7.5 seconds. It'll also tow 3.5 tonnes. It's matched as standard with a 7-speed auto transmission with manual override controlled by steering wheel paddle shifters. A start-stop system is fitted as well. Engine outputs are sent to the road by a 4MATIC permanent all-wheel drive system with a fixed 40% front, 60% rear axle torque split. This is augmented by a 4H off-road mode, a 4L low-range reduction gear, and a rear diff lock. Compared to the four-cylinder, the X350 gets more cross-members, thicker all-round coil springs and different dampers within its double wishbone and multi-link suspension setup. Also, all-round disc brakes. What about the interior? To its credit, Mercedes-Benz Vans has worked hard to differentiate the X-Class from its donor car. There are different instruments with a digital speedo, a floating tablet screen controlled by a rotary dial and shortcut buttons, and flashy circular air vents. All versions with the V6 get keyless entry and start, climate control, 8 speakers and sat-nav, while higher grades get leather and suede seats, LED headlights, a better navigation system with live traffic updates, and a crisp 360-degree camera. Additional safety tech beyond the camera and 7 airbags includes AEB, traffic sign recognition and lane keeping assist. However, there's no active cruise control or blind spot monitoring, and we think Mercedes-Benz should be the market leader in safety tech. There's a fair bit to like behind the wheel of the X-Class. First of all, it's probably the quietest ute we've ever driven. The four-cylinder is very much that way, and so is the 6. There's a lot of noise-cancelling, suppressing material in the floor pan and in the firewall, meaning there's almost no diesel clatter or vibration through the wheel or into the cabin. And even at high speeds, 130, 140 km an hour here in Europe, where it's legal, I would add, you don't hear a whole lot. It really amplifies that plush luxury feel that Mercedes-Benz is going for. Now, a lot of utes also have a bit of a propensity to skip about at the rear when they're unladen, but the coil setup on this car with fatter springs than the four-cylinder is pretty well sorted. It does soak up hits relatively well, doesn't get too discombobulated if you hit a bump mid-corner. It has a sort of somewhat agile, somewhat relaxing feel. Graded on a curve, it's obviously no SUV, but by ute standards, it's pretty good. That engine is also excellent. Obviously that noise cancelling technology and the extra chassis strengthening does add weight, but the 550 Newton-meter punch is well and truly up to the task. Having four-wheel drive permanently is excellent on slippery surfaces, and I like the fact that there's still proper low-range gearing with hill descent control if you're a real off-roader. Not that too many of those people are probably going to buy the X350D. Negatives, well, I don't like the fact that there's no telescopic reach adjustment on the steering column. It's not particularly ergonomic. The steering itself is also relatively has a good amount of feel at speed, but it is quite ponderous and heavy at low speeds around car parks and in urban conditions, certainly compared to something like a Ford Ranger. And finally, the ambience in here, look, everything looks great. There's a lovely screen. It looks quite bespoke and distinctive, but some of the plastics are a bit cheap and it doesn't really have a luxury feel that something that might cost upwards of 80 grand should have. All told though, I think the 350D is probably the X-Class that makes the most sense. The four-cylinder does feel a little bit too reliant on Nissan, but this car has enough additional points of difference to really stand alone. It's not simply a badge exercise, it is a premium ute. It's not without its flaws, it's not an absolute showstopper, but it's an excellent effort, and Obviously, a lot of people are going to find it pretty desirable indeed. Anyway, head to the comments and let us know what you think, and head to caradvice.com to read the comprehensive review.